Safety is at the core of Volvo cars. You know that. We have protected people for almost 100 years with our safety technology and our innovation, dating back to the 3-point seatbelt. We care about life, and that includes all life on this planet. And let's be clear, global warming is real. Climate change is real. And as a car company, we know that we're part of that problem. So we must be part of the solution. And that is why we aim to be a climate neutral company by 2040. Critical to that goal is a portfolio without any tailpipe emissions. So we aim to set the pace for our industry's transition to full electrification. By 2030, we will be a fully electric car company and sell only electric cars. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. Last year at the COP26 conference in my hometown of Glasgow, we signed the Glasgow Declaration on Zero Emission Vehicles. That declaration commits us to supporting global efforts to ensure all new car sales are zero emission vehicles by 2040. Not as ambitious as we would like to be, but it's a clear science-based target aligned with the goals of the Paris Agreement. For us, electrification makes clear commercial sense. Electric cars are not just better for the environment, they're also a better proposition altogether. They're more efficient than combustion cars. They produce less noise, contain less moving parts, generate less service costs for our customers, and of course, zero tailpipe emissions. Our electric offering keeps expanding. Last week, we launched the new EX90, a car that represents the start of a new era for Volvo. Born electric and the first of a whole new family of fully electric cars to follow. In the coming years, we will launch one new fully electric car every year. And that's how we will reach our goal of 2030 of being a pure electric car company. We're also investing heavily in the industrial infrastructure to help us reach our 2030 goal. For example, by building a brand new purpose-built electric car factory in Slovakia and a battery plant in Gothenburg together with our partners Northvolt, powered by clean energy. It's also why this month we have stopped investing in the development of combustion engines. We are the first traditional car maker to do so, but again, it makes strategic sense. Combustion engines are technology of the past, and we must abandon them if we are to meet the greatest threat facing humanity, climate change. But we can't do it alone. We will not reach our goals without collaboration. Governments, energy companies, other car makers, we all have to do a bit. We all have to work together. So I not only encourage more manufacturers to sign the Glasgow Declaration, but also welcome the formation of the AZ Coalition. Together as manufacturers, fleet buyers, investors, countries, cities, and regions, we can lead the way. We can lead the way towards a future free from tailpipe emissions and fight climate change together. Thank you. Safety is at the core of all.
On behalf of BIA Group and as part of the UAE delegation to COP27, I am happy to address you all today on the milestone of the ZEF Declaration. Congratulations to all of our fellow signatories and BIA Group for taking this decisive step towards net zero emission targets. BIA Group has long been driven to pioneer a sustainable quality of life for all, aligning with the future forward vision of the UAE by providing holistic and sustainable solutions for our partner businesses and cities. BIA Group is proud to have created new models and solutions for sustainable future in waste management, recycling, clean energy, digital transformation, environmental consultancy, learning and development, and of course, green mobility. After successfully implementing our zero waste solutions, BIA Group is now reaffirming our commitment to net zero emissions. To achieve our targets, BIA Group will build on our models for emission-free transport networks. We look forward to leveraging cutting-edge solutions to improve accessibility to transport services, advancing the electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and exploring waste to hydrogen innovations to unlock potential of the emission-free fuel of the future. Being here at COP27, we are reminded of how our targets are strongly aligned with the UAE's agenda, the regional agenda, and the global agenda for sustainable future. The ZEF Declaration is an inspiring moment as it makes way for a new phase of collective action and collaboration across nations. I am confident that together we can advance green mobility to reach new horizons and drive towards a net zero target with greater impact. Thank you.
So hi and welcome everyone. What a great day this has been for transport, I think. Just a few minutes ago, we saw the launch of A to Z Coalition, in itself building on the work from COP26 and the Glasgow Zero Emission Vehicle Declaration. So today is a really good day, I think. And this is all part of really making sure that the commitments we make and the promises we make at conferences like this lives on. That is not just a piece of paper we sign and then we move on and then 12 months later we sign something else. No, this is a coalition that will live on to promote collaboration and to promote zero emission vehicles. My name's Angela Hultberg. I was part of launching the COP26 declaration. I now work for Carney Consulting as Global Sustainability Director. And the whole point when we wrote the declaration and launched it last year was really to bring different stakeholders together. It was about everyone stepping up to the plate and saying, we will do our part, but we will not reach those targets by ourselves. Automotive manufacturers said, we can produce these vehicles, we can put them to the market, but that's not going to be enough. Somebody needs to invest in this. Someone needs to fix charging infrastructure. We need demand for these vehicles. So we gathered governments, we gathered cities, region, financial institutions, NGOs, fleet owners, and the manufacturers, so everyone could come together to say, okay, if everyone do their part, we can absolutely do it. And that's why I'm super excited about our panel today, because it's just such a wonderful display of how we can work up and down the value chain. So I'd like to welcome to stage Kristen Seaman, Chief Sustainability Officer at General Motors, Adam Gromis, Public Policy Manager, Sustainability and Environmental Impact from Uber, Anders Shadabari, Head of Global Sustainability from Volvo Cars, Mike Pierce, Executive Director of System Change at the Climate Group, and Tamer Ali, Vice President at Valeo Innovation and Technology Center, and also Egypt President. That was a lot. Okay, so welcome everyone. Really good to have you here. Let's just dive right in. And I'm going to turn first to these four right here, because you are also present at COP26 as some of the original signatories of the declaration. So starting, Kristen, with you. What made you sign the declaration in the first place? What's the value of initiatives like this?
Yeah, sure. Thanks again for having us here today, and what a great opportunity to celebrate together the great historic day that we had last year. You know, at General Motors, we set a vision back in 2017 to be zero crashes, zero emissions, zero congestion. It's hard to believe that that was 5 years ago, and then it's hard to believe it was only 5 years ago. A lot has happened in that time frame. But we recognize that our carbon footprint is substantially our scope 3 emissions from our customer usage of our vehicles. So as you mentioned, climate change is urgent, it's real, it's happening now, and we have to work together to really make a difference. And for us, that was really the transformation to all electric. So we're excited to be part of it. The collaboration is important. We talk a lot at General Motors about everyone in, that this transition can't happen alone, that we need to work together with our peers in the automotive industry, with our suppliers, governments, et cetera. So collaboration is at the start of it all.
And moving to you, Anders, if you have the same question and then you have to differentiate yourself from Kristen, what made you sign in the first place?
Basically for the same reasons. I mean, we have an ambition to be leading, pushing the transition to electrification within the industry by having a target, as you heard from our CEO, 100% battery electric by 2030. I think that is probably the most ambitious targets among the traditional car manufacturers. But we cannot do this alone, as you said. I mean, we need suppliers on board, we need government support, we need the fleet buyers to create the demand for this. And well, there's more, there's a long list. So what this coalition does is bringing it all together, and that's a great thing.
So if we're going to have to pass that mic around. Mike, the climate group was one of the main forces, together with the climate champions, behind the Glasgow Declaration. And you brought in a lot of fleet owners and that part of the value chain. What do you see? Why did they come on board?
Yeah, well, I promise you I'm not going to give 130 different reasons across all the EV100 membership. I mean, this is the community, in a sense, I sort of represent here today, a group of companies who have made a commitment to a 100% electric vehicle fleet by 2030. And that is a demand signal in the market at the moment of more than 5.6 million cars. It's not as big as the number on the road, but this is a meaningful part of the market. And again, I will echo the point here around collaboration. This was a group who recognises they needed to see that signal alongside the manufacturers, alongside governments, alongside cities and states. And the declaration was really beautifully crafted to be able to do that. It provided a mechanism for them to be able to reinforce the commitment they'd made under EV100 and say, this is part of what we are looking to do, but then actually give that a broader signal. Because much of what they're wanting to do is, there's the pure demand signal of X million units, which is great for Volvo to know this is happening. But there's also the part that's saying, we believe by showing this, we will shift policy, and that will therefore enable that transition to go much faster for those companies that are taking a leading position like Gen2.
And Adam, then, you're a bit special at Uber, the biggest fleet that doesn't own a fleet. So why did you come along?
I always like to think of myself as special, Angela. Thank you for that. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for your leadership, Angela. Thank you to the UN and for the UK government for convening us last year. We were honored to join the ZEV Declaration. You know, for us at Uber, we want to be the cleanest platform for mobility in the world. We don't think that that's just the right thing to do. We think it's the right thing to do for our investors. We think it's the right thing to do for the 100 million people that use our app every day around the world, either to earn money or to get from A to B or to send things from A to B. We also think it's the right thing to do for the 10,000 cities and towns that they use our app in, and that where they use and enjoy our app. So for us, this is absolutely critical. So we committed to being 100% zero emission mobility on Uber by 2030 in the US, Canada, and Europe. That means 100% of trips in battery EVs or on micromobility or public transportation. and by 2040, everywhere else we operate around the world, all 70 plus countries. So for us, this is very much about participation and getting into the game, but we also know we cannot do this by ourselves. We absolutely have to work with our OEM partners, with rental and leasing companies, with EV charging and energy companies, and fundamentally with governments as well. EV markets do not exist around the world without strong supportive policies and government investment in infrastructure. So we're very pleased to be sitting at the table and leaning in on this issue.
And speaking then of not being able to do it by themselves, that brings us to you, Tamir, because you're something as exciting as one of the first suppliers to come in to sign the declaration and to say, yeah, sure, we also have a part to play. So you signed very recently. How come?
Yes, I think what's happening in this declaration is really fitting our strategy. And if our dear customers will go, then we as a tier one suppliers, we have to provide components that will fit to move the electrification. Value normally is a number one leader in electrification technology, either for powertrain systems or for thermal management system. Powertrain systems mean electric motors, electronics for inverters, onboard charger, or thermal systems for battery cooling. So our technology, our innovation, all is directed towards this strategy, and zero emission vehicle is something is in our DNA. And when we see that we have to be that in this treaty, it's mandatory that we have to be there in this with our partners and customers.
I heard business opportunity from
Yes.
that. And I do think it's important to underline the fact that this is business opportunity. All of this is not only coming from the goodness of our hearts, right? It makes a lot of sense for so many reasons. So, Anders, back to you then. So we talked about how, we don't want it to be a one-off. We sign a piece of paper and then we move on with our lives, but we want something real to happen. So since last year, since you signed, what has happened at Volvo Cars? What have you been up to?
It's been a fantastic year, really, for transitioning to electrification. You heard from our CEO. We invested in one new car plant dedicated for BEVs, a battery plant. We sold off the combustion engine operations, so we burned the bridges. We are at 15% sales of BEVs globally, and market by market, we are turning the market, flipping it to only BEV. We are investing more in renewable electricity and renewable energy in our plants. The EX90, which we were happy to market here just recently, it's the first car on an all BEV platform. We are active in advocating for climate change. We joined this platform, but we left our industry association, ASEA, simply because they were too conservative on climate action. And we have now 2 green bonds, which is financing the transition. So
You've been busy.
It's been fantastic.
Same question to you, Kristen. What's happened since last year?
Well, I think we've been spending our time on a lot of the same things. So a lot has happened at General Motors as well. And, probably starting with the fact that we introduced a number of electric vehicle products, very exciting to see. One of our focuses is across every price point and segment. We're a full-scale automaker. And so whether it's the Hummer EV Super Truck, we announced the Cadillac Lyriq, which also was introduced in Egypt last week in Cairo, and the Equinox $30,000 EV, so very affordable vehicle that will be coming on the market, which is the largest segment, family-sized SUV. A lot of focus around affordability to make sure that this transition is inclusive. From a renewable energy standpoint, we actually announced about a few weeks ago that we have secured all of the agreements and projects we need to meet our goal of 100% renewable energy for all of our operations in the US by 2025. So we got one check mark done, and we're still working across the globe. So really a lot happening in the space, continuing on the collaboration items, a lot of focus on equity. So really in a busy and exciting year.
Fantastic. Adam, moving to you. What do you see not only at Uber, maybe, I mean, you really have your ear to the ground. What are you seeing also with users, both as in, you know, people using it to get from point A to B, but also to make a living? Any trends, any development?
Users are all that we're thinking about, Angela. And for us, to get to our 100% zero emission vehicle targets, we have three primary areas of investment. First, drivers, helping them make the transition. Second, products, push a button, get that Uber magic trip, but now in a clean ride. And third, transparency. We don't believe that anybody will believe us where we are, where we need to go, unless we show our homework. So just to hit those three buckets and what's happened over the last year. For drivers, we made a commitment at the beginning of this 2 years ago to make 800 million in total resources available. This is very much about money for drivers who don't have a lot of it to pay for a more expensive EV. So we put 800 million on the table, and we're putting it to work in markets around the world. This last quarter, the third quarter of this year, we saw 37,000 drivers use zero emission vehicles on Uber. That's the largest all-electric rideshare network outside of China. That's 4 times up since Glasgow, which we're really pleased about. They did 20 million trips, 20 million all zero tailpipe emission trips on Uber in the US, Canada, and Europe. That's also up 4 times since Glasgow. That means 20 million opportunities in the last quarter to have a conversation, rider to driver, about the EV that they're in. That's 20 million opportunities for the driver to earn money through clean energy. That's 20 million opportunities for the local city to take a small fee on the transaction. So we're really excited about that. Second, products. We've seen a 100% increase in the number of cities where we can offer green rides, EV rides, micro-mobility rides, or transit rides on Uber. We launched a new product this year called Comfort Electric. Push a button, get a ride in a premium EV like a Tesla, like a Polestar, like a Ford Mach-E, and there will be more like the Cadillac Lyriq, which just came out and is absolutely eligible. So we're really pleased to now offer this. It's available in 25 cities across North America. It's the first all-electric rideshare offer that we have. And finally, on transparency, at the end of last year, we produced our second transparency report in 2 years on emissions from Uber rides, on electrification on Uber rides. And earlier this year, we did our second ESG report for investors, not just on emissions from our scope 3 activities like selling our products and emissions from Uber rides, but also on our corporate operations, IT centers, diversity and inclusion, et cetera.
So you've all been super busy. Mike, what are you seeing within EV100 and all the fleet owners you represent? I know the Climate Group has had a big year with launching also EV100 Plus, so you've been busy too.
Yeah, no.
But any trends, do we know anything about the annual EV100 report? Like a sneak peek of that? What are we seeing?
Unfortunately, not yet. But I suppose what I will mention from the EV100 report, which the comments from Jim and Volvo are so interesting on, is one of the constant indication of barriers is the access to vehicles for those companies themselves that want to demand. And so seeing new brands, new vehicles coming online, it will be absolutely music to the ear of that demand side. I was also interested to hear, and I think maybe this is another sort of trend, and part of it is the mention you make, Kristen, of renewables as part of the mechanism. And we're also seeing an increased conversation around the manufacturing process and steel. And so particular interest from a number of companies saying, how can we bring green steel into the manufacturing process for the cars? This is, again, a longer journey, but I think a real signal for the future direction of that. Annual report will be coming out in January next year, and I'm really looking forward to showing some encouraging figures of the members. There's 200,000 on the road in the last report, but that really goes back to a period a year before last. So big numbers forward on that. I will, with the mic, and you've offered the opportunity, Angela, is EV100 Plus really is one of our most interesting next steps. So this is, when we launched EV100 5 years ago, the battery technology was not there that gave us confidence that we could launch a demand side campaign for medium and heavy duty good vehicles. That has changed. The economics of that is moving. And so we now felt confident to launch that initiative at Climate Week this year, 5 years on from the first EV100, and with our first set of members who are making that commitment for transitioning all those medium heavy duty vehicles by 2040.
Fantastic. Thank you. So talking then about green steel and the salt. So we said that one of the main points of the declaration was really around collaboration and everyone doing their part. So Tamir, turning to you. If the point of the declaration is to bring all stakeholders together, like what type of collaboration would you like to see? I mean, you're servicing the manufacturers with what they need to be able to transition so that add-ons users can get what they. So what would you like to see more of?
I think what we have in our vision is really matching everything is mentioned right now. So we are the main provider of electric powertrain system. So simply every one car out of two running in Europe, it has a component and component in every one of two electric car, it has something components coming from Valeo. And this number, if we talk worldwide, it will be 1 out of 3. So this, a part of collaboration, we are a technology company. We are a pro technology in terms of mechanical electronics, and this part for sure, and producing as well, which in this case, our role should be as a starting point for everybody would like to provide electric vehicles. So we are at the beginning of the chain, let's say it like that. And I like that also. We talked about micro-mobility. It's something that we are looking very well to provide other mobility solutions in an electric form as well. So electric bike, motors for electric bike, motors for electric scooters, two-wheelers, three-wheelers. And this also will help a lot in the affordability of the electric thing. So we have to make sure that electric is affordable for all levels, all micro-mobilities. And this means, again, another form of electric vehicles. Also very important for the cars, one of the most challenges for electric vehicle is the range, the autonomy of the cars. And here the battery is playing a big role. And these batteries, we need to keep it in the right temperature. This is why our thermal management system that makes very important cooling system for the battery, that makes the battery autonomy is going higher, because this is one of the biggest challenge for me as a driver, and for everybody, we have to increase the autonomy of the electric vehicle to catch the 700 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers, and this will help a lot in this industry. Last thing as well, we have to, because we are providing component, we have also to deal with our suppliers that we use materials which is decarbonized materials. So we are increasing our the usage of the materials, plastic materials that comes from the recycled materials, and this is also becomes a very, very strong collaboration with our customers. Today, when you receive the requirements from our customers, we have some points, and so you will be ahead of competition when you have this. You have to check some boxes saying that the materials that you used in your components, like HVAC, for example, it has to come from materials which is recyclable. So this becomes a competitive point, which is really important, and it needs understanding between the customers that require HVAC, for example, that come from recyclable plastic, and as well from us that we have to find the suppliers for our material, and our production is based on that. And here you see the whole supply chain starting from our suppliers, production, and then also our customers that have the same expectation. So it can't be one person alone, and this is why this is a very, very, very strong collaboration between all the parties.
I love that. Anders, we mentioned recyclable here. I know you're collaborating on circular and recycled materials and stuff, but tell us more about the type of collaborations you're involved with now that maybe weren't on the table 10 years ago.
I just want first to compliment Valeo for going beyond just efficiency in a component and go into the decarbonized materials, recycled plastics, aluminum, steel, copper, because that is making you more competitive. At Volvo Cars, we've introduced a internal price on carbon. So, and that is 1,000 SEK, basically $100 per ton. And when we discuss with suppliers we ask them for the CO2 footprint of your component. And since you are engaging in those type of materials, your CO2 footprint is lower. And then we put that on the piece price for the suppliers and compare them on that level, combined cost and CO2. And that's the way forward. And that's how you weed out the high emitters. And obviously, yes. No, but of course, in general terms, we need more collaboration with the suppliers. A car company, we have 8,000 great engineers, but the supply chain has so much wealth of technology, innovation that we, of course, need to tap into. So absolutely more collaboration. That's.
Okay. Kristen, I think maybe I wasn't the only one who was a little bit surprised the day I saw General Motors and Honda next to each other in a headline. And I think that's such a fantastic example of not only working with the usual suspects and, your closest customers and suppliers, but even with your competitors. And I know that's not the only partnership you have, but please do tell, what were you thinking?
No, I think it's surprising for a lot of people, right? But even as we were standing here before the meeting, the three of us were talking and already talking about ways that we can collaborate and work together to get this transition to happen faster, to get the decarbonization of everything down. The partnership with Honda is a great example of our focus around equity and equitable climate action and making sure that this transition is inclusive. We talk a lot about communities that have been, disproportionately affected, and that as we go to all electric, we need to make sure that no one is left behind. So that collaboration is on a very affordable product, a small car, for both of us to really hit that niche, and having products across all of those price points and segments, making sure that infrastructure is available for everybody. That maybe EV access goes beyond single family usage and, into things like rideshare. The work that we have going on with cruise technology, for those that aren't familiar, out in California today. In fact, it was just announced, I saw that we now not only offering driverless rides at night, but also during the day. Out in San Francisco, and soon to be coming across other locations as well. That's EVs, right? So it gets into that ultimate vision we had set around zero crashes, zero emissions, zero congestion, and all of that will lead to a more sustainable world. So the more collaborations we can do with companies like Honda, Galileo, we talked about how we can already work together just here today. So I think we'll continue to see more of that.
That is fantastic. And we will all take full credit. I want to stay with you just a few moments longer because I know, unfortunately, you have to leave us early today and I don't want to stress you out. But before you go, can you tell us a little bit, okay, if we're talking about collaboration and it all sounds nice and, it's rainbows and sunshine, but what do you actually expect from others? What do you actually need others to do for you to be able to reach the targets that General Motors have set?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what we talked about already today, right? Infrastructure is critical. We've got to get to the point where customers can see themselves living in an all EV world. We're doing what we can. We've committed over $750 million for charging infrastructure. I know others are doing their part as well, but none of us will do it by ourselves. The government commitments, the new laws that have been passed in the U.S., the new clean energy tax credits are certainly going to help that transition happen faster. I think, the whole spirit of COP, we talk why we come here, and where the value is. The value is in this. The value is in getting commitments around declarations like this. It's having the conversations of what are the challenges we need to solve. I was on a panel earlier this week, and a gentleman from the Smithsonian was talking about optimism, and he said optimists are the doers. And, remind me for those that are familiar with Fred Rogers or Mr. Rogers, he said when he was a kid and scary situations would come on, his mom would tell him to look for the helpers. And so I think in this space, I want us to look for the optimists. Keep talking about what we are doing, how we move forward, how we move faster. I mentioned our renewable energy goal. We originally set a commitment for renewable energy to be 100% by 2050. So we accelerated it by 25 years. That, you know, that's a whole generation.
That's
so,
pretty cool.
So the more we can do that, the more we can set an optimistic goal that we maybe don't know how to get there today by ourselves, I think the faster we'll actually achieve it.
I love that. And thank you so much for your leadership. And thank you for being here. I know you have to go.
Thank you. I apologize. I'm literally going to a flight. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kristen. So, Mike, moving to you with a similar question. So, the climate group is, of course, engaged in a lot of advocacy. You push this towards many stakeholders, your members, but also others. So, what about you? What do we need to accelerate the pace of this transition? What do we need from others?
So I think the first part is that well, let's maybe three sort of areas that of this sort of collaboration I see possible. One is the bilateral relationships that actually we just started here with the GM Honda story. We've seen a number of our members working with auto companies to be able to say how they solve particular problems. And so one of our members, Tesco, had partnered with Renault to get the first 18-ton electric refrigerated truck. So there's product innovation to solve some of the bigger problems that we have there now. I actually would just like to point back also to the ZEV Declaration, because what do we need is we actually do need to collaborate in those bigger communities as a second part. But then the third area where I really think the voice of the demand side can have a particular place to play is in collaborating with governments who are looking to make change here. We've seen that we do need policy action on this area, and I think there are some really positive stories starting to emerge from whether in the EU, where the voice of business with an ambitious voice has made a difference in terms of the EU Fit for 55 package and the 2035 date on that, but also internationally. So pointing to business, I see that piece of is own house in order, but doing that, delivering that through innovation, but then looking how to be able to shape the policy environment and this wider community of action.
Perfect. Adam, what about you? That was some impressive numbers you had with ×4 and ×4. So obviously you are accelerating, but what would you need then to really leap even further?
Yeah, we really can't do this without partners and partnerships. So I'll first comment on our industry partners and then second on policy. A great example of this is our partnership with Hertz. We made a partnership with Hertz to make 50,000 Tesla Model 3s available to drivers on our network by the end of next year in the United States. We've expanded that to Canada in just the last couple of months. But this is about a journey with a partner like Hertz, who's made a big commitment on zero-emission vehicles and is also willing to work with us to make vehicles available to people who wouldn't otherwise be able to buy those vehicles. And we think that's really, really powerful. What we found, even through a recent analysis that we published online, is that the drivers who are renting Teslas from Hertz do not look like average Tesla owners. Quite literally, these are drivers coming from communities of color, from immigrant communities, from low-income households. And they are becoming now ambassadors, stewards of zero-emission vehicle technology in their neighborhoods. 95% of them have never used an EV before on Uber. And they are also coming from neighborhoods where we do not see EV registrations, places like South Central LA, where you do not find many EVs registered. And the research shows that it takes your neighbor having an EV for you to get curious about EVs. You don't know if you can be in an EV until you see someone you know say, I had a great experience, or watch them plug it in. So we're so excited to engage with more partners willing to come up with us on a journey to reach into a population that they may not have worked with before. It's a big difference to lend a vehicle, not just to someone who needs a car, but to someone who wants to earn with that car. And we think there's great opportunity there. My colleague Bob Rupp, who's in the audience, leads that partnership, and I encourage you to talk to him about it. Second, on policy. It's difficult to understate the power of policy in the zero-emission vehicle transition. We talk about policies in three areas: vehicle supply, EV charging, and then user incentives, including road pricing and carbon pricing. Those are three critical pillars of policy. And let me just illustrate where we see the difference. This last quarter, we got to 7% of all kilometers on Uber in Europe were in zero-emission vehicles. 7%, that's very, very good. That's about 2x above general population on-road use of ZEVs. Very good. If you double-click and look at London, it's 15%. double our European average. And it's hard not to attribute it to the policies that are present in the City of London that Mayor Sadiq Khan has pioneered. Things like the CCZ charge, the congestion charge zone, which exempts EVs. It gives EVs more value. It means that there's a direct everyday economic signal to drivers to switch now. And we can then double down our efforts there. We can make investments. We can bring in our partners in supply because we know we're not making the driver worse off by steering them into EVs. Similar situation in the US. In the US, we're now at 4%. 4% of all miles on Uber in the US and Canada are in ZEVs. Very good, about double the general population average. In California, it's 9%. California has decades of investment in this area. They have unbelievable policies to spur EV supply and incentivize consumers. They've invested in charging networks that are world class. That's why we can go further faster. So we want to highlight those best practice policies and share them with governments around the world to show what we believe works.
I love that, and I love the energy. So I'm gonna stay with you a little while, and you guys will all get this question now, so you can think while he speaks. But I mean, that's a lot of energy, right? That's a lot of optimism. And I do believe we need to remain optimistic because it really makes no sense being anything else. It's good for nothing. So what do you see in the industry, and pick freely, today that makes you really, really excited? What brings that energy to you?
Our first driver who drove a Tesla 3 off the lot from Hertz just a couple of months ago, just right after Glasgow, we announced a partnership with Hertz. We're going to bring Teslas to people who wouldn't be able to otherwise afford them. Was a woman of color who has driven with us before on the Uber app, and she not used an EV before on Uber and drove it off the lot in San Francisco Bay Area, and then started driving them on a regular basis. Now drivers like her, in fact, several hundred of them have gone off to graduate from this program in a way and now purchase their own Teslas. They tell us that what they love is that riders ask them about the car. What is this? Is this an EV? Or they're not even interested in the emission savings. They're interested in the technology, the sunroof. They're interested in the smooth, quiet ride. It gives drivers more ways to engage with their riders. They already felt proud to be ambassadors to their city, but now they're ambassadors to a new wave of motor vehicle technology. And many drivers tell us that they make more in tips as a result. People are curious. People are interested, not just in the emission savings, but in the transformation of the technology. And so what we're starting to see is that working people who are usually at the back of the line for the industrial transition, whatever it is, we can help together move them to the front of that clean energy transition line, which would not otherwise be possible. This is a more expensive transition. I think Bill Gates wrote that in his latest book. What's hard about this industrial revolution is that everything's more expensive. And so we have to get really creative as policy people, as business people, to create new business models and new policies that really reward those who want to go further, faster in EVs. We need to give them more value. If we can do that, they will make the switch. And that's what really gets me up and out of bed in the morning and really excited about
I'm super excited about that too. Now, that was a fantastic story. Mike, what about you? What gets you excited?
Well, look, as a reserve Brit, I can't quite manage the excitement of a man from the US, and I have to acknowledge that. But I will do my best. So look, the thing that, and we've heard a lot about how this is moving fast in the developed economies, and it is. So what's really interested me has been the way in which we actually had the session before, which showing the great importance of this working and being available across the world. Our EV100 members are saying, why can't we buy the vehicles? And that's particularly true in developing economies. So the thing that has excited me in the movement has been, we've seen a number of countries that have started to introduce policies around ZEVs ZEV dates in Latin America, for example. And so in Chile with a 2035 end date, Mexico with a 50% target for 2030 and 100% by 2040. That feels to me this is then a real transition for the world. So I think if we don't make this work equitably, we're missing the market opportunity, and we're really not going to have a credible proposition for the future of vehicles.
Fantastic. Anders, let's see where the Swedes land between the Brit and the American.
Well, what gets me excited is driving a BEV. They are simply better cars. Silent, efficient, on the way to become cheaper than driving a conventional car. So, having your concept from Uber there of getting more ambassadors on board to promote EVs is kind of interesting. We met this morning, and I understood between the lines that every Uber driver has about 50 people in the car during the day. And that's 50 people that could potentially be ambassadors for BEVs. And I think that type of collaboration is very tempting. We'll talk more about that later. But there's a few more things that I need to say. A BEV is good for the environment. Of course, we know that. But only if you charge with the right electricity. So one thing that we really need, all of us, is the renewable electricity in large quantities all around the world. And there, the utility energy industry can do more. And then the final ask, of course, is about infrastructure. If you go to Europe, 75% of the charging stations are in 4 countries, so it's very concentrated. And the charging experience for the consumer can often be very troublesome. The payment is a hassle, and it's not always fast charging. So improvements can be made there, not only for the government to fix, but also private actors, and including the OEMs. So those are issues that needs to be addressed.
And a bit of a call to action as well.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, Tamir, finishing off with you then. What makes you excited about this transition?
Hard to say after all of that brilliant guys. Huh?
Adam just killed us all with that story.
And I will comment on what Adam mentioned. But first, I think actually, it makes me excited that I'm a father. Father for kids, nice girls, 14 years, 2 twins boys, 10 years, nice as well, and not like the girls. But I think we have to make something for the new generation. We have responsibility. We have to make this world much more suitable for them to live at. And we have a value to add, we have a commitment to do, and this commitment is to make this world more greener, and this zero emission vehicle becomes a must. And our kids and grandkids later in 2030, 2050, if we didn't start from now, it will be a big problem. And this is the point that Adam was talking about as well, regarding the awareness, that we need to make this aware. And I found the new generation, Generation Z, is much more aware about this topic. And because of what we have today in COP27, what we have in these treaties, what we have, the new generations is much more aware, much more culturally aware about that. So my daughter was saying, Daddy, you will go to COP27 and you will present things there. So she's aware. And this is was not there before. I remember when we were more younger, was not the case. So this awareness will make the people ready to adopt the electric vehicle more and more. And that's why as well, we have to do the second pillar. And the second pillar is coming also from my side. What makes me excited, I'm a high-tech engineer. So we will not make high tech for fun only, but also for the society. So what we are doing, we have to find solutions to make electric vehicle much more excited. Like exactly what was mentioning, your cars are more excited right now. It's more faster, more. You feel more powerful when you drive an electric car. And what you make, like say, okay, push a button, yeah, you have a new experience in electric vehicle. Wow. So it's more funny, more digital, and when you drive it, the cockpit itself is different right now, and this is what all the OEMs is thinking about. You have to give something different. When you say you need to charge it like your mobile phone every night, then you have to give something in return. And what's in return is high technology, is what's all the OEMs are thinking about how to provide that. And for sure, the last thing is the regulation. But the regulation is the country's responsibility. And we cannot put regulations unless the product is available and affordable. And that's nice. People like to take it. So people like to go for. So we have a big responsibility. And this place is also making this responsibility. All of these people doing their great job for that responsibility. It's really exciting, yeah.
I agree. It is super exciting. And these are such good examples of everyone showing up and really doing their part to make this transition happen. I want to thank all of you for your great insights. We have a few messages more from some of our friends who couldn't be here, so we'll watch them before we give some final thoughts.
Hello, my name is Monica Araja from the Drive Electric campaign and from the A to Z coalition core team. To meet the Paris Agreement, we know that we need a just transition and we need to make sure that in this particular decade, we electrify road transportation as fast as we can. And we need this shift to happen everywhere, in particular in emerging markets, because that's where we know we'll see a growing demand for logistics, for public transit, for light, medium, and heavy vehicles. So we need to make sure they are zero emissions. At COP, A to Z brings together the world's first coalition to advance zero-emission vehicles in all segments, and this is extremely good news. We know it's been a very tough year for the world, and yet when it comes to road transportation, we have seen incredible policy wins to accelerate the electrification of this part of the economy. So we have seen progress in Europe, in the US, in Latin America. So it's been a very good year from that perspective. We have the technologies that we need to go faster, to go bigger, so we can detox the transportation in our cities, in our countries, in our regions. What makes the difference, we have learned, in the pace of this transition is the quality of the national policies. They make a fundamental difference. And of course, the deployment of innovative finance. This is particularly the case in emerging markets, where finance will define a role that is impossible to overstate. And this is critical because so many countries in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia want to leapfrog and leave the tailpipe behind, that very polluting tailpipe. So at Drive Electric, which is a global campaign, we celebrate, we support A to Z because it brings together developed and developing countries. It brings together governments and manufacturers. It brings together cities and other non-state actors. And we do this because it's about benefiting the climate, of course. It's also about the economy, and it's also about our health. So thank you to all the partners of this coalition. We have a very, very busy 2023 ahead of us. It's going to be an incredible year. And if you haven't been part of this coalition yet, just join us, get in touch, and we'll move forward and faster together. Thank you.
Limiting temperature rise is crucial to avoid the worst impacts of climate change, and COP27 is highlighting the urgent need for action. This is why Jaguar Land Rover is transforming at pace, embracing the need for change by putting sustainability at the heart of its Reimagine strategy. We are proud to be one of the original zero-emission vehicles declaration signatories and to share our ambitious commitments and insights into the implementation of our own transition plans. Our sustainability strategy encompasses three focus areas: planet to regenerate, engage for good, and responsible business. And it is through Planet to Regenerate that we are driving our company transformation toward its goal to reach carbon net zero by 2039. And in March this year, we committed to clear and measurable emissions reduction targets by 2030, in line with science-based target initiatives and consistent with the most ambitious 1.5-degree scenario set by the Paris Agreement. And our portfolio of pure electric vehicles will increase significantly within the next 3 years. In fact, Jaguar will become an all-electric car brand from 2025, And by 2030, all Land Rover models will be available in pure electric form, and our roadmap will deliver zero tailpipe emissions by 2036. Strategic partnership with industry leaders are central to our approach. Just recently, in fact, we announced a partnership with Wolfspeed, which will see them supply silicon carbide semiconductors for our next generation electric vehicles, delivering increased powertrain efficiency and extended driving range. And this partnership builds on Wolfspeed's existing relationship with our Jaguar TCS Racing team, where this advanced technology has been used to accelerate on-track efficiency and performance in the Formula E Championship. Designing, testing, and developing new sustainable technologies rapidly in this high-performance environment is helping to shape our electric future and benefits our clients through learnings and technology transfer from race to road. Through the accelerated transformation of electrification technologies, energy efficiency initiatives, and a clear approach for a circular economy, Jaguar Land Rover will deliver sustainability-rich modern luxury vehicles.
Thank you for that. Thank you to our panel today for your insights and all the future collaboration that was promised on stage. We'll hold you accountable. Let's meet again in Dubai for COP28 and follow up on what happened there. Thank you to our audience, both here in beautiful Sharm el-Sheikh and online. If you're watching this and thinking, how do I become a part of the A to Z coalition? It seems like a great place for collaboration. Please visit the A to Z website to find out how you can join the conversation. And we'll see you all again next year at COP28. Thank you all so much.